Ladies and gentlemen, I, Ria,
And I, Yashi,
PGDM students, would like to take you through the final panel discussion, the theme of which is Unlocking the Potential of Workforce. The discussion will be focused around generating AI disrupting the job roles, challenges and potential of the changing workforce landscape, and modernizing the workforce for managing uncertainties.
the discussion will be moderated by Mr. Diyodatta Kurane, Digital HR Evangelist. The experts in the panel are Ms. Priya Vasudevan, President Talent and Enterprise Services, Liberty General Insurance Company; Mr. Shailen Merchant, Senior Vice President and Head Human Resources, Chola MS General Insurance Company; Mr. Siddhartha Nigam, Practice and Delivery Head, Insurance Product Consulting, LTI Mindtree; and Ms. Sonali Chatterjee, Deputy President and Head of People, Performance and Culture at Aon India Insurance Brokers. I would like to request the experts to kindly form the dais. Please welcome our speakers with a huge round of applause. Meanwhile, let me take this opportunity to introduce them.
Mr. Diyodatta Kurane is an alumnus of XLRI with over 4 decades of experience in the HR field in manufacturing and BFSI sector. He has hands-on experience in IR, HR, process reengineering, leadership development, and evangelizing the adoption of digital best practices across HR functional areas.
Ms. Priya Vasudevan is the President, Talent and Enterprise Services at Liberty General Insurance Company. She has over 20 years of rich work experience, much of it in leadership roles across various reputed organizations and diverse sectors. A pharmacist by education with MBA in Human Resources from Mumbai University. She has been honored with the National Award for Excellence in Training and HRD by the Indian Society of Training and Development for Innovative HR Practices.
Mrs. Shailen Merchant is the Senior Vice President and Head Human Resources at Chola MS General Insurance Company. Over the past 35 years, he has had a cross-functional experience in the field of marketing communication, production, and human resource management. A graduate in statistics and an alumnus of the PGXPM program from Great Lakes Institute of Management, he has briefly worked with Royal Sundaram and Loyal-Intes.
Mr. Siddhartha Nigam is the Practice and Delivery Head, Insurance Product Consulting at LTI Mindtree. He is a leading consultant and thought leader in insurance transformation. He is instrumental in building fast-growing and large insurance practice that can support global needs. He was also involved in developing core insurance platforms both in PNC and LNA segment.
Ms. Sonali Chatterjee is the Deputy President and Head of People, Performance and Culture at Aon India Insurance Brokers. She has over 20 years of experience engaging with corporates and clients at different stages of the organizational life cycle. She holds an MBA from IMT Ghaziabad and BA Honors in Economics from Delhi University. With this brief introduction, I request my colleagues to formally welcome the experts.
Thank you. Now, I would like to request the moderator, Mr. Diyodatta Kurane, to kindly commence the discussion.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Always a pleasure to be here in NI in a beautiful campus. And today we have a very eminent panel, and we are looking forward to an exciting and informative discussion. The only prerequisite is that you have to ask questions and keep us awake till the end. That means you have to remain awake. So one thing I want to say is I really appreciate and I commend the NIA for the topics they choose. So this topic today, for example, on the entire business of the emerging workplace and the last panel on unleashing the potential, we were just discussing among the panelists before this session that somewhere either a topic in most panel discussions becomes very, very operational, very ordinary, or it goes to the other extreme and becomes very academic. So either ways people don't have much interest in that. But I think the topics which are chosen by NIA, even the last year's Tatva focus area, extremely interesting and I think very, very pertinent to the issues which are there in hand, particularly for the HR and people management issues. So with that, the way this panel discussion will run is, we have earmarked roughly an hour for the topic itself, and it's broadly divided into 4 pieces, which I will explain to you as we go. There'll be about 10 to 15 minutes, hopefully, towards the end for question answers. So please reserve your thoughts, comments, etc. So to kick off the discussion, we thought that, first let's have some basics understood. Because, words like unleashing the potential, unlocking the potential, unlocking human potential, unlocking workforce potential, they all sound quite similar. But what is it that really we mean by this? And it's important to understand this because the topic is unleashing the workforce potential. It doesn't say how to make people work harder. If you translate it in that language, that is also one way to express it. But it is deliberately not expressed in that way. That means there is something more to unleashing the workforce potential than just working harder. Okay, so we'll try to explore in the first approximately 15 minutes the viewpoint of the panelists on what is their thought on unleashing the potential of the workforce. So maybe we can start in this order from left to right. So Priya, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, thank you, Devdutt. And I completely agree that the question itself is very beautiful. And hence the topic is very interesting and engaging to be participating in. However, the question actually assumes that currently the potential is not unlocked or it is underutilized. And of course, there could be 2 schools of thought on that. But let's assume that we are in the school of thought where we say that, yes, there is much more potential to be unlocked. And from that premise, if you think about it, I'm sure most of you have heard of this saying, this belief that man is a social animal. And if man is a social animal, organizations are human systems where people or human beings operate. And if that is the case, stepping into a little bit of psychology, what does a human being need after the basic needs are taken care of? So the human being actually craves for relatedness and meaning. And the more and more the organizations are able to provide relatedness and meaning in work, in association, more the potential will be unlocked. I think it is futile to think of the question just at an overarching manner. We need to look at it at 3 levels. Unlocking the potential at an individual level, unlocking it at a team level, and unlocking at an organization level. So now if you look at unlocking the potential at a team level, it's all about how do we encourage the employees to provide discretionary work. Employees provide work from, say, 9 to 5, but discretionary. And I'm not just talking about the time, but about the quality, about the intent. So the discretionary effort going beyond the role, that is at the individual level. When we look at unlocking the potential at team level, maybe the dynamics are different. Maybe it's about manager-employee interaction. Maybe it is the feeling of inclusion in the team. Maybe it is a whole sort of other things. At the org level, unlocking the potential could be structural, could be institutional, could be processes, could be for example, could be hybrid, could be so many other things, the policies and processes that organization deploys. So my first attempt at this question is that it is at different levels, and there can't be one brush to paint the whole canvas. And I think relatedness and providing meaning to life, meaning to work, and hence life would be important in this context.
No, I think that is very well put. Moving on, Shailen, you can add to that, but maybe if you can just address one part that, suppose you have an unleashed or unlocked workforce, what are the kind of outcomes, or what is that workplace going to look like?
Thanks, Devdutt, and good evening to all of you. Like Priya mentioned, it's always a pleasure to be here amongst all of you. So, when we were looking at this topic, the thought that came to my mind is what is potential? First of all, we need to understand that. And something that is to be, I think it's latent. We don't know what that potential is. People don't know. So if you go back in mythology, there was a saying that Hanuman did not know his own strength, right? When he took that leap to Lanka, he didn't know he could do it, but he did it. So I think that's the potential that we are talking on, the human potential that is there in the organization. And when you hire someone, you recruit someone, it's not just a warm body that comes in. It's the whole being. And the whole being that comes in, and that's what comes into the organization and adds value back. So that's really what the potential unlocking will lead to. I remember this very famous quote by Mr. Ashwin of Asian Paints. He said, in his farewell function, one of the workers was saying that, he said, when the organization hired me, they thought they were hiring a pair of hands and legs, but they did not know that the mind came along free, So that's what it's all about. So in that organization there, where, I also believe that it's not the responsibility of only the organization to unleash the potential. It's at 3 levels, like what Priya was also elaborating. It's the individual. And then there's the manager. So of course, in the team dynamics, you have a manager who plays a very large role, because the manager is that one connect, which is a daily connect, which is a moment-to-moment connect with the employee. And then, of course, you have the organization itself. And what binds that entire thing is the core value of the organization. Because all of that relatedness, the relationships that form, are around something that we believe in. It's like the family, right? In the family, we all share a core set of values. So I think that's also very important, that we should try and work in organizations where our value systems connect. And I think that's fundamental to ensuring that we can work to potential and this thing. So I believe that these kind of workplaces where potential, I think I was fortunate to have worked in one such organization in my career. And when I look back, the employees of that organization are connected even after they've moved out. They're connected as a family. The relatedness continues. It doesn't matter when someone's sitting in Canada, somebody sitting in a place called Valpare in Tamil Nadu, it's interior Valpare, but they're all connected. And that relationship that's formed, the bond that forms, continues beyond. So what happens is, when you are in trouble, where you're in a situation where you need help, the other person reaches out and is there to support you. And that's what works well for the organization. That's what pulls up the entire team together. It also creates role models. Because what I was reflecting back. I've had a long journey in the group that I work with. I have almost 35 years, you heard. And when I look back, why did I stay that long? It was always because I had a good set of managers that led me. And I always said, okay, I may move out after this manager moves out. But then I had another good manager. And then another good manager. And I stayed on, I look back, hey, I finished so many years with this organization. So it's that role modeling, that managers passing that cultural baton down to the next level, and then that team passing it on to the next team. And that kind of ensures that the organization becomes an institution. It doesn't just stay there as an organization which is there for a point of time. And that's where I believe that the potential of the workforce unleashed will lead to sustainable organizations, long-term organizations, and all bound by that entire value system.
Thanks, Shailen. I think you brought out a very important point that, in fact, this struck me while you were speaking, that many people believe that this whole business about unlocking the potential and all is something which has come to our mind in 2023. But it is actually the older organizations also, they may not have been using the same language, but this thought of how to get the best of the workforce or the family of people, who are coming together, it's a good kind of a managerial practice, even existing before. I think what we will discuss later in the panel discussion is, what is it that has sparked the interest today? There are some real reasons why this thing needs to be addressed today. So, I'll give you an example. If you look at Tata Steel, way back when it was founded, in those days they didn't have the word CSR. But Tata Steel was doing CSR, and they were actually much ahead of the game in terms of the labor practices, which later on then became as the labor laws, welfare laws of India. But if you had asked Tata Steel at that time that, do you know anything about CSR, they said, ye kya hota hai? So let's not run away with the idea that, all this unleashing and all that is something which is, because there is a tendency to link it directly only with certain digital and certain other developments, which is real. But let me assure you that these thoughts of how to get the best out of people have been in existence for a long time. In fact, probably one of the best examples of how to get the best out of people is in the Indian Army itself. I mean, that would be a subject matter for a seminar for a day. So let's move on. Siddharth, your thoughts on what is potential? How do we unlock it? What kind of an organization do you think we will see if there is an unlocked potential?
So, important part is when we talk about unlocking the potential of any individual or any team, right? There are a couple of things that we need to understand, right? There is a desire to unlock, right? And then there's a potential to unlock, and there is a hurdle to unlock, right? And all of these three things have different ways of entering into the arena where the unlocking of the entire potential of the individual happens, right? A person may not have a desire to unlock, and he is very lazy doing what he is doing, so you can hardly do anything, right? You can motivate, but you can do not much. But then there are bigger things like hurdles, right? Now, hurdles are divided into three types of things. People, process, technology is the most common thing that we have been talking about, that there are people-related hurdles. I mean, old days, we never used to get to interact with so many people. There are processes, right, with which organizations like managers like us bring, right, and then there is a technology. And each of them has a different output and intent of the kind of work that you can do as an unlocking of the potential. Important is individuals should understand they are trying to unlock the potential in terms of improvement, transformation, or disruption, right? First of all, find out what you are trying to do. Are you trying to unlock by improving on a day-to-day basis, or you are going to transform the job that you are going to do, or you are going to eliminate the job that you are going to do and do an entirely different kind of a job, right? And those things are becoming real and faster, right? And when Devdatta Saab said that, did we realize into 2023? No, we did not, right? We realized at the time when COVID struck us, right? We realized how important life is. We realized that things that we never thought of working from home can actually be possible, right? We realize that there are things are moving in faster pace beyond our scope of imagination, right? And that makes us think that do we do things in the same way for next 10 to 15 years, or we do things differently, right? Are we going to make processes in a different way, or we are going to use technology in a different way, right? Believe me, technology is changing things faster than we can imagine, right? I belong to a technology stuff. And the things that we encounter day by day, right? Jobs get eliminated, but they are not getting eliminated because they are mundane jobs, right? Are you reinventing yourself to become a new person every day? That's what is unlocking all about. The question is not about whether you can unlock or not, whether you are ready to learn and have a desire to unlock. I think those are the factors that are going to change the organizational behavior. From my point of view, the way I will like to see unlocking is basically trying to educate people what unlocking means, right? What the things are going to change in next 2 to 3 years. Are you getting prepared for it or not? Versus trying to improve their job on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
So, I think the panelists have really added different dimensions to the same topic, the core subject. So, on this round, ending with Sonali, can I just maybe pose a question to you that, in this I have come across two terms. One they call something as human development or unlocking the human potential. And now here we are talking about unlocking the workforce potential. So obviously the workforce comprises of humans. But is there a nuance, is there a difference in the two? Is there a wider scope with this? What is your thought? would you think you can shed some light on this?
Thank you, Deodat. And firstly, thank you so much, NIA. It's again a pleasure to be back here with all of you. Really enjoying the sessions. I was privileged to attend the session before this as well. And honestly, fantastic topics, as Deodat mentioned, and extremely value-adding. Coming to the topic in hand, which we are discussing today, which is unlocking potential, and Deodat has posed an interesting element to me in terms of human potential versus workforce potential. I think we are living in an era today where both unlocking of human potential as well as unlocking of workforce potential are actually moving hand in hand. The human potential is honestly impacted with the kind of change in our social framework, in our ecosystem, and everything that we are experiencing as individuals today, wherein whether it be in terms of meeting our day-to-day requirements, you want food, you just go to Zomato or Swiggy and order something. Whether it be in terms of meeting our day-to-day requirements with regards to information, you have information on your fingertips across each and every topic under the sun. All of these are impacting our human potential and making us better, more equipped, I would say, not necessarily always better, but definitely more equipped in terms of, all the various roles that we play as humans, whether it be parents, whether it be students, whether it be, children. We are able to support these roles so much better just because of the sheer change in the dynamics that we have had as humans and everything which is available to us today. This same framework, if we apply from a workforce standpoint, again, gives us that same leverage. How we utilize that as organizations, as managers and leaders, is what really is the entire element around unlocking. I'll give you an example, right? Supposing there is a client and there are two project teams working with that client, right? The deliverables are clear. There is one project manager who works extremely hard with his team, ensures that there is daily, weekly tracking of milestones, and ensures that the project deliverables as defined are done pre-timelines, okay? So that's the first example. With the same client, there's another project team which is working. The manager here ensures that there is, again, daily, weekly tracking of timelines, but at the same time, the manager also constantly creates opportunities, brainstorming sessions, etc., for the team to add their own insights, their own ideas, and their own solutions to the final outcome. Between the two teams, first team has done the project deliverables pre-timelines. The second team has done the project deliverables within timelines, but the client has rated the second team higher. Why is that the case? Anybody? Yes, please.
The entire team to build up their skills. So that is the thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So not only did the manager give opportunity for development for the team, he also gave opportunity for their creativity and their innovation to impact the final output. And that's where this manager focused on unlocking the latent potential of the team, right? So that's how I will address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonali. I think this was a great round of discussion because at least for me also, it showed that, there's so many different dimensions to this business about unlocking. It's not a straightforward thing that, somebody starts working harder or something like that. It's got a lot to do with the human being, the basic core needs, plus its different dimensions at an individual level, team level, and organization level. Now, moving on to the next interesting part of this topic is that there are any HR students here? Or people who have done any HR subjects? Nobody knows anything about HR subjects? Some raised hands, okay. So actually, if you see the history of HR, earlier it was called personnel management, somewhere it was called human resource development, etc., etc. Whatever the name was given. I think the endeavor of everybody was to see how people who are employed can be more contributory in their work, right? I mean, what is the purpose of employment? Purpose of employment basically is that you work for an organization and then you grow, either in terms of promotion and compensation, and the organization also grows, and their business grows and their profitability grows, etc., etc. So somewhere the underlying assumption is that people should be working more effectively. I will not call it harder, but more effectively. So if this has been the age-old focus of all people management sciences so far, the question I want to raise is that what is it that has happened now that this business about unlocking the workforce potential has come back onto the discussion table? And as you would have understood from the previous discussion round, you'll realize that it is not just the same thing as making people work harder. There is something more to it. So in this round, now we will try to explore what is it that has created this renewed interest. What is happening around us in society? What is happening around us in terms of technology, people, whatever is there? What is it that is driving organizations and thinkers and social scientists to start thinking about this business about unlocking potential? Why do they realize that potential has to be unlocked? What is the difference? Is this about the Gen Z? Is this about issues arising from work from home? Is it about more autonomy required by the etc., etc.? What are the dimensions of this? So maybe this time we'll start from this side. Sonali, if you could throw some light on what do you think are the imperatives? Why has this topic come to the forefront suddenly? Why is it a necessity?
So I think, while I know we have all overused the P word, but the fact remains that the pandemic was an eye-opener for each and every one of us, right? I think pre-2020, I don't think, we were really debating and talking so much about changing paradigms and, changing workforce dynamics, etc. Post-pandemic, that's pretty much the most important topic on each and every person's mind, right? And I think, hence, the big shift in human behavior, which has happened due to, this pandemic which hit the entire world, is probably one of the key reasons, in my opinion, why we are talking about this topic of unlocking potential. Because the implications of the pandemic are still being felt, whether it be in terms of the fact that there are organizations which have, first chosen the path of going completely virtual. Then they have rethought that approach and, tried to move to a more hybrid kind of a model. Within the hybrid model, there are, certain challenges and there are certain benefits. Organizations are still learning on the go in terms of how to really optimize, their objectives while providing the most flexibility that they can to the workforce, given that that is the order of the day, that is the expectation, because a hard rule of getting back full-time into office is not seeing the results that organizations wish to see. So that's one. Second, of course, is in terms of, like Deodat mentioned, in terms of the sheer dynamics or the sheer demographics of the workforce, where we are seeing increasingly more and more, Gen Xers, Gen Ys, being there in the workforce, which means that this generation or these generations, the kind of environment they have grown in, the kind of, backgrounds that they have, their expectations of the work environment itself is different. They have grown up, I think Rohit in the previous panel, for example, was mentioning that, there's a 5-year-old today who goes to a restaurant and he orders his own food. So that's the kind of workforce which is entering the, the market today. People who, in spite of the fact that, they are probably taking up their first jobs, still know or believe they know a lot. And, they are coming to the fore with that, strong point of view, they have a strong view in terms of how they visualize their work experience, and organizations need to make that happen. So all of these elements, in my opinion, are really influencing organizations to rethink how they are creating an productive, effective, enabling work environment to get the best out of their people and at the same time give the best to their people. So those would be my 2 bits.
Thank you. I think summed up well, especially about the Gen Z or Gen X. So, Siddharth, you are our technology expert. So I feel, I'm not a technology guy, but I mean, I read about it. I think there is a lot of underlying influence of technology, and which is probably driving this whole business about potential and unlocking. So could you throw some light from a tech perspective on this?
Can you hear it? Yeah. So what is more important? I think IT industry took something earlier in the entire thought process of unlocking potential. In terms of, we started talking to individuals or aspirants of working on IT is to how to eliminate their job, right? And once you start thinking about how do you eliminate your own job, you move to a next job, right? And that also starts thinking about what are the hurdles that are coming up in the process of unlocking your potential, right? And that's the biggest thing that we think we should train each of our people, right? Is when they come in, right, what are the 3 factors that is going to eliminate their job? Are they getting prepared for the next level, right? While you coming back to the same question, what prescribed that is just the sheer change in the life that we are trying to see, right? The technological speed in what we are seeing, it becoming a central process, right? Historically, when we used to work on the HR concepts, the people was the centerpiece of unlocking a potential, right? There was a counseling, there was a manager, there was everyone who is involved into the process of unlocking the potential. Nowadays, the technology itself is becoming a centerpiece. The people who are coming from fresh out of college, right? You guys know more things about the world that is happening than what we know, right? You guys are having more information. The problem with you is that you are having more information. Right? You cannot discriminate between what information to process and what not to process. Right? The only difference between unlocking the potential between a great performer, right, and an average performer is the person who can distinguish between which information to process and which information not to process. Right? How he is getting prepared for the informations that are going to impact his entire potential, and that potential could be irrespective of job. It could be potentials about his personal life, the way he is trying to deal with his family, what we talked about, right? The entire Gen Z problems of aspirational things. The things are changing into altogether different directions. We had a very linear way of growth. Our growth was Maslow's law of safety, and then we used to go, and then we esteem, and then self-realization. The person currently thinks that self-realization can come the very next day when he comes out from the college. Right, and those are the things that are changing the dynamics of how do we unlock the potential, right? What is the potential that we are trying to unlock? Are we trying to unlock the potential of capability? Are we trying to unlock the potential of desire? Are we trying to unlock the potential of speed in which they are trying to work? I think all these things, the central piece is driving is some of the things are the information that we are getting into, and the technology that is trying to change the job patterns that we are trying to enter into the human race, which is extremely fast, extremely scary, but extremely exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. This puts one thought in my mind. You know, you guys sitting in the audience here, majority of you are students waiting on the threshold of getting a job. So this just struck me that maybe you should ask yourself a question. Are you locked or unlocked right now? Okay. Yeah, so my suggestion to you is that when you enter your workplace, go in an unlocked state. You know, you talk about phones, no, which need to be jailbroken. So don't go like, you know, those which are like closed systems. Go already unlocked, then you can go faster. But if your lock is already stuck now here at this stage, and then you need somebody to unlock you there, then you have a problem, okay? Maybe we'll discuss that more later. Let's move on. Shailen, your thoughts on what is prompting this whole move about unlocking the potential? Is it something, just to put another angle on it, is it a need which is coming from the organization that, look, the organizations are not performing, therefore they need employees to perform better and therefore unlock their potential? Or is it coming from outside to inside that the expectations of people, society are changing and they are expecting more and different things from the job? What is your thought on this?
Thank you. Thanks, Devdutt. So, first is, building on what you said. So when you get into a job, you're going to get a letter of appointment, right? Maybe a pre-placement offer. That's a contract. So that's a contract only to tell you what your terms and conditions and your salary is. But that's not going to define how you're going to work. So don't take it as a contract and don't go by that piece of paper when you go into the organization. And that's really where the need comes, because I believe that when you want to hire someone or you want to recruit someone, if I want a job, someone to climb a tree, will I go and hire a fish? I'll go and look for a squirrel, right? If I want someone to swim, I'm not going to hire a squirrel, I need a fish. So you'll have to try and get the best fit into the jobs, because that's what's going to make them work to their potential. Potential that we believe as an organization that's going to work. So that's one part. So hiring right for the job. And that's where it's important that you all know what you want to get in. I also spoke about the cultural fit earlier. So that's one aspect. The other is that today it's important that I always believe that as the organization looks at customers, we in HR and as managers need to look at our employees as internal customers. So whatever I would do for a customer outside is what I need to do for an employee inside. If I want to give the customer a great experience, delight the customer, then I need to delight the employee inside. That's the way it will work. And that's where it's going to bring up the best out of the person there. So this need to, see, we are all growing. India as a country, as an economy is growing. I just heard some statistics a few days ago, a couple of weeks back, that we should be looking at doubling our GDP, right? If that happens, the way we are imagining the structures within the organizations, the way we are looking at scale is going to be totally different. I don't think that we are probably planning on that level as an organization or as a country. So we need to then look at, in this mad race for growth, am I compromising on all the other elements? Am I just looking at recruitment, but not looking at hiring the right talent, bringing it on board the right way, nurturing that once that comes in? So that's a critical piece we need to maybe fix. But then there is attrition, because there are offers. Everyone's growing, so everyone needs people. You got a job, then someone's offering you much more money, and then you're going to change your job, and that's going to, again, reskilling, re-upskilling, etc. will come in. So that's just going to be a race that's going to never end, unless we put a kind of work on it. So it's important that this aspect is looked at, not just from the HR managers level. Why do people leave organizations? They never leave organizations, they actually leave the manager. Research shows that they leave the manager. And it's that manager and HR together as a facilitator will create all those workplace experiences which is going to hold people back. And then hopefully bring out the potential of the employees to the way we would like to do it. And one good measure, I believe, is that if you see smiling faces in an organization when you walk in as a total stranger, that smiling face indicates to you that I'm happy at work. We do a lot of engagement surveys, we pour a lot of money into engagement surveys, but that's a very quick and fast way of looking at engagement happening there. The other thing is that we should use technology to get rid of the mundane work. I spend 10 hours, 12 hours at work. How much of my time is into transactions? How much of the transactions can be offloaded to technology? Can that do this for me? We were discussing some time back outside. Can it help me manage the scale up? Because that's something I can only do this much. How do I use it as a force multiplier? And then my mind is free. Am I able to pause? Am I able to think? Am I able to reflect? The reflection is very important. So if I don't reflect, I don't know where I'm going, then I'll not go anywhere, right? So it's important that we need to pause and think about this. And that, I think, is very important from this thing. And that's what's driving it. Because today, in the mad race that we are in, I don't think we are taking the time out and doing these kind of things. Because we are all running. We are all running to stay in the same spot. So that's where I think that's the way we need to kind of change the way we work.
So, absolutely, I liked your fish and squirrel analogy, because if how much ever you try to unlock the fish, for that purpose it is not going to get unlocked, and vice versa. So Priya, taking on to a slightly related area, which perhaps we ought to cover. These days there is a lot of emphasis on what they call as the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusivity, right? So, and this starts becoming part of a larger thing which, so you mentioned that at work people are smiling, right? And in fact, I know that there are organizations which have at the entrance where they come in, they have got these 3 buttons. So the first one is a smiley face, second one is just a straight face, so I mean neutral, and the third one is a frown. So the people are encouraged to punch in, like you punch your attendance and say, okay, am I a smiley face today? I mean, am I coming happy or neutral or unhappy? So what many organizations today are trying to measure, one of the important matrices being measured is about well-being, the index of well-being, which is a little bit different and more complex than just engagement. So coming to this business about diversity, equity, and inclusivity, etc., what is your thought, Priya? Do you think this is also one of the considerations which is driving this business of unlocking the potential, allowing people to attain their capability, etc.? Could you throw some light on that?
Yeah, so I think I can talk for a day on this topic. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's one of my favorite topics. But taking a step back about, and I still have a thought on, what prompted this unlocking the potential and why now. And I completely agree with Sonali. It is definitely the pandemic. But also I think it is how we view organizations. Now, if I were to, I don't want an answer, but I want you to reflect. What is a metaphor that comes to your mind when you think of organizations? And there is a whole organizational theory around metaphors in organizations. So one of my favorite metaphor when I think of organizations is organizations as organisms. And your whole frame changes when you think of See, currently when you think of organization, you think of brick, mortar, you think of, say, their technology, you think of app, you think of their products. But when you think of that as organizations, organisms, your relatedness to the organization changes, it shifts. Just like organisms, we are all organisms, just like we have hope, we have joy, we also sometimes have sadness, we have fear. So I completely agree with what Shailene said, in an organization, if everybody's smiling, means the organism, which is the organization, is happy, which means it's a happy place. So what happened during the pandemic is the organism suddenly underwent turbulence. If you're in a flight and there is turbulence, you just shrink, right? And you just are ready for what next? So the organizations are operating also out of fear. That's why this whole discussion is coming up again and again. Fear of scarcity, limited resources, fear that somebody else might get ahead of me. So there's a lot of fear operative in organizations, and hence we need to be sensitive to that fear. But at the same time, you as employees, as you step into organizations, you will see it around you. Fear of the manager, fear of top boss, fear of deadlines, fear is all around. And hence, organizations are very daunting places. So what you need to do as you step into such and all organizations go through these phases, is to distance yourself from that fear and not get hooked to that fear. Sometimes as we get hooked to that fear, you operate out of fear, and that is very, I would say, that is non-productive completely. So DEI, one of the core fundamentals of diversity, equity, inclusion is basically to minimize that fear that organizations have, that employees have, create psychological safety. To whoever you may be, whoever you are welcome. So bringing the whole self to work means I don't have to hide a part of me as I come into the organization. I may be upset, I may be worried because my child is not well, for example. But I don't have to hide that and keep it away and bring only the happy self to work. The sad self is welcome. The angry self is welcome. The, the cure self is welcome. The happy self is welcome. Performing self is welcome. Even the non-performing self is welcome, because all of us are not machines. You can't function in the same level of optimal productivity at all the time. So organization needs to be a place where everybody is free, everybody is free to come in the way that they are, in their core self. And that is the fundamental of DEI. So I think organizations are beginning to realize it, may not be articulating it in the best of, in depth so much. I think organizations are still peeling the layers of the onion with gender and LGBTQI and all of that. But what is fundamental to it is your whole self is welcome. That's my take on this.
No, I think that was very well put, Priya. I think this particular round has been the meat, the crux of this discussion. And the important takeaway for all of you should be that this business about unleashing the potential of the workforce, etc. It's not just one unidimensional thing. There's so many aspects to it. There is the whole social scenario outside. There is technology behind it. There is a human psychology, and I like the way you call it an organism. It brings it to life. An organization is somehow just like on a piece of paper, org chart. That's all. It's got only 2 dimensions. But an organism has 3 dimensions, probably 4 dimensions, including time. So I think this was a fantastic round in terms of trying to understand the subject. Moving on, in this round, what we will give each of the participants an opportunity or learn from them, what is it their organizations are doing in this field to unlock the human potential. Because this is a real life case study from their experience, what they're actually practicing and what they're doing in their organizations. So here maybe I'll start from my right. Siddharth, if you just would like to elaborate a few things that are being done in your organization.
Before we go to what are we doing, right? Let's take some examples. All of you have done general insurance? All of you? Okay. Yeah, should be. I mean, yeah. So vehicle should be insured, right? And we were giving this example, right? How many of you in this room are planning to become an auto insurance broker? Anyone? No one? Why are you not trying to become an auto insurance broker? It's commoditized. Right. It's gone beyond what you can do. Right. At one point of time, auto insurance brokerage was one of the easiest thing people used to enter into. And their lives used to change because it was a mandatory insurance and you have to take it, right, and an easy job to do. But nowadays, no one wants to become an auto insurance broker. Right. The reason behind is that job has been transferred to technology. Right. Nowadays, I have not met my auto insurance broker for, I don't know how many donkeys here. Right. Probably the first time I did my insurance and then never met him. So the challenge, what we are trying to see in an organization is what inspires the changes in the world, right? Are you preparing your people to make sure that the jobs what are currently there today are not going to be the jobs that are of the future? Right. The work that you are learning today are no longer going to be used in future. The things are moving in the faster pace. Previously, the changes in the job used to happen almost like 10 to 12, 15 years. Right. That changed to 7, 8 years. Right. Now technology is trying to change that every 2 to 3 years. Right. You blink and your job is gone. Right. Or it's been automated. I think one of the things what we are trying to make sure is that are we training people in 2 things, in emotionally managing those things in a better way, how you are going to make sure that you are ready for future. And the second thing is training them in the right way, which can make sure that they are moving in the right direction. Do you guys learn IT as a process of? Yes, all of you, right? How many of you have done programming? Few? Right. Which language? Python. Java. So I did from Photon, right? Anyone knows Photon? Right, I would have not been in the industry if I continued with Photon. Right, no one uses Photon nowadays. By the way, when I learned Photon, Indian railway system was written on Photon. Right, that's the change in the technology, that's the change in the evolution, not only in what you're doing, the kind of work that you're going to do is going to change on the regular basis. Right, and as a manager, as an organization, it is our duty and job to make sure that we prepare these people, right, prepare the colleagues of us to make sure that they are ready for next 3 to 4 years time frame. And that's what we're trying to do on daily basis.
I think that's important, because many times in this unlocking game, somewhere the employee is left to unlock himself or herself. And even after that unlock, then what next? Which way does the door open, inside or outside? The organization has to take the onus of, the next steps from this. I think that's a very good points that you made. Shailin, maybe you can add your organization, what are you doing uniquely?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Devdutt. So just 2 or 3 points I would like to mention. See, one is that you mentioned about the skydiving, right? So what do you need if you skydive? You need a parachute. So I think that's what the organization needs to do. When you make the change, you make that person, push the person and say, look, why don't you play to potential, change your job, rotate, move, do something else, learn. We need to also start packing the parachute for the employees. I think that's important. And I know this because one of my very seniors told me, he said I was given the head of, he said I was the CFO of the company. I moved to head of technical, no knowledge of claims and underwriting. But the director of finance of the group told him, don't worry, go ahead, try the job. If it doesn't work, you can always come back. So he took that fear out of his mind that I can go and try this. And that's when he discovered that he could do that. And that helped him actually to move on to a larger role in the organization. So when you provide those opportunities for people to rotate, you need to also give them the support and the assurance that you're taken care of. Don't worry. You may fall, but we are there to help pick you up. Okay, so that's one part. So that's something which is practiced. I myself have been a beneficiary. I'm not an HR guy. I've not gone to B school, learned HR. But I'm doing HR right now. And that's because the organization felt they could back me up and allow me that freedom to try it out, maybe fall, stumble, and then pick myself up. So that's one part. The other is that what we do is, as an organization, we practice this, that when we promote people, we promote for potential, not for performance alone. So we have this 9-box grid which we use, which is performance versus potential. And then we try to map the person on that. So it's done by the manager and by the panel that looks at it. So the idea is that if we see the potential there, can we help that person accelerate his or her growth and grow in the organization? So that's the second example I could share. And third is, we're trying something now. It's a thought. We're not yet implemented. I don't know whether it'll work or not, but we're just trying this out. So we are just kind of enlarging our tech and data piece. And then we found that we need a lot of people to test. We have 2 core systems. And we are not able to hire people from market on those core systems because the skills don't exist. Those are unique to us. But we realized that we have this group of people sitting in the back office called operations who are working on those core systems, who know those core systems better than anybody because issuance of policy happens. So now the thought is, can we take some of those people? So their jobs are flat, right? Paid a certain salary, they keep doing mundane work, keep doing that. So can we take them, put them into this, reskill them, upskill them, and let's try that out. Maybe it may work. If it works, it's good for us, it's good for the employees, it's good for the organization, right? So that's something that we need to try out. So I'm just sharing some examples. I hope that helps.
No, that definitely helps. I think real life case studies bring the whole subject to life. So moving on, Priya, maybe I can tap you that while you are putting in initiatives because you're looking after the talent services, what challenges do you encounter from the employee side? Because, in this somewhere, one assumes that the employee is always willing to be unleashed.
Yeah.
But is it really so? And if not, then what are the challenges? What are the roadblocks?
Yeah. That's a brilliant question, Devdutt. And, to my shock, forget surprise, to my shock, I found that the employee is not really willing to be unleashed. I think some of you would have at least attended interviews if you've not worked yet. I mean, some At some point you will definitely attend interviews, and one of people like us who are sitting on the dais and also the line managers who do interviews, their first question is, what do you want to be like 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line? Earlier they used to say career, what do you want, what is your ambition for your career? That has now toned down to like 10 years, 5 years, now it is 3 years as a standard. And many people answer in whatever best they can. However, do you realize, and I mean, it struck me that once the employment begins, nobody asks them this question. Nobody. Neither the manager, nor the super manager, manager's manager, nor the HR, nobody asks the employee, what is your career aspiration once the person is in. And there lies the potential. Because you will all be joining organizations. Of course, it is to earn money, earn livelihood, create a good lifestyle for yourself and all. But primarily, I think the driver is career, right? Humko bada banna hai. And that is the thought that each one of you have. Somebody with like stature. And imagine nobody is having that conversation with you in the organization. So what we did, and I work for Liberty General Insurance, which is Liberty Mutual globally, one of the top 5 insurers. And so the initiative that we put in place actually got awards in this Fortune 68th organization that I work for, global awards. So this, and one thing I was very clear that we cannot unleash the potential of the whole workforce. It is too much daunting a task to even undertake. So I didn't even undertake that. But I knew that if the top players are taken care of, their careers are taken care of. Top, I don't mean the CEO -1, maybe -2, maybe even -3. Those layers are taken care of, the behaviors will cascade and go down. So we did something called the structured development journey, spanning over 3 years. Now imagine, 3 years meaning, so the first thing was to put the person or put these top employees through development centers. Once the development center is done, they have an idea of strengths and area for improvement. Then the manager, myself and the employee, we had career conversation, created a development plan, and then put the development plan in motion. And till then, everything was fine. But to your question, when it came as a shock was when I decided, okay, now let's do a catch-up with the same 3 people. So I did this conversation again. There were some 60 we had identified. So in the plan was brilliant. Like, I want to do this. I want to be coached, mentored, training programs, projects, assignments, stretch roles, all of that. And that's when the first catch-up happened, it was surprising that not even, hardly 10% had moved on their own development plan. Which brings me to the realization that one of the stumbling blocks for employees is the deprioritization of self in organization. And you will all realize it when you start working. You tend to prioritize work, you tend to prioritize your team, you tend to prioritize what your manager said, what your CEO is saying, what HR is asking, but you don't prioritize what your needs are. Unless that becomes a priority, unlocking the potential will remain in such kind of discussions. So the onus is on the employee to prioritize self, to grow, to develop, to make time. I mean, we all have limited time, so to make time, to put efforts on self and self-growth. And that for me is, the answer of the key.
I think in that statement there lies a huge, huge message to you people that, in the earlier days that company would do the training and people had to be dragged into the training room. So today, nobody is going to drag you. If you want to keep up, you better, grab and drag the training opportunity for yourself. And if you don't do it, nobody is going to tell you. Just, you might find that within 3 months of your joining the organization, I'm not talking about 3 years, I'm not talking about 30 years, you might just find yourself becoming slightly obsolete. The change in the jobs and the skill requirements is exactly like the development in your smartphones. The smartphone which you bought yesterday, you will not buy today. Okay? And what we are saying over here is not something which is meant to scare. It is the reality. See, because, panel discussions like this, if you ask me, what is the purpose? one purpose is to share a lot of thought, and because the panelists have got a, really wide experience, rich experience. But I think the real takeaway is what you make out of this panel discussion. If you can take something out of it and apply it to yourself, then it makes sense. Otherwise, you can always go on the internet and read something about it, or you say, yeah, this is not applicable to me. Acha topic hai, but theek hai, it's not for me. So I don't think so. I think this is very close to your heart, or should be close to your heart. So please take a note. So Sonali, maybe on this point, would you like to add some dimension? For example, what has been your thought that, when people, what are the opportunities? For example, when you take this whole business of development to people in your organization, how have you actually made this happen? Because you have possibly one of the most interesting designations I've come across. Her designation is Deputy President and Head of People, Performance and Culture. Okay. I have found very few organizations who have the guts to put culture in their designation, because that's a nice topic to discuss. But to call somebody head of culture is actually to put your reputation on the line. So it's a very, very bold, and I think you have a great job. So if you could shed some light on that.
Sure, Yadav. Thank you so much for that. And yep, I think, when I took up this role, honestly, just a quick flashback for myself, that when I took up this role, and I was meeting with the board members of the organization, one of the mandates that they had actually given to me was around making sure that, the culture is, really taken care of and built in the most, empowering way for the employees of the organization. So that was one part of the mandate that I had taken up. It's been around 5 years, and I think it's important that we go back to people in my organization and check on whether I've been able to deliver on that or not. But it's been a very interesting journey, and I think some of the ways in which, we have kind of worked at Aon to support employees, whom we call as colleagues, ensure that there is an ecosystem which allows them to unlock their potential and bring their most, authentic self to the workplace. Are, for example, one, we started focusing hugely on mental health of colleagues, some years back. And the first step in that direction was towards providing employee assistant programs, which means that you have, certified psychologists who are on call, who are available for one-on-one personal sessions to provide support, guidance, and counseling to employees when they are going through mental duress. We realized that, after a point in time, of course, and it's been a journey, we realized that one reaches that stage of reaching out to a certified professional, usually a little late in the journey of, seeking help and seeking resolution. Hence, we also identified the requirement to train our managers and our leaders on becoming mental health first aiders. So essentially recognizing the signs of mental duress, understanding what are some of the triggers which are manifesting themselves in a colleague, and addressing those firsthand became the order of the day for us. And that's how the journey has been in terms of handling issues and situations around mental health. And to be honest, I think, gone are the days when mental health or, talking about mental health has any kind of a stigma associated with it. I think it is extremely important for organizations to talk about this, to realize that this is a very, very pertinent issue in today's world where there is an overflow of information, there is the fear of jobs being taken over by technology, there is stress which is induced both at the workplace and outside. Keeping all of this in mind, I think recognizing mental health to be an extremely important enabler, for people is very important. And, these are some of the ways in which we have addressed this. Similarly, in terms of looking at our colleagues and realizing that each and every colleague is on a different journey. like Priya mentioned, it's very important for our colleagues to be able to bring their most authentic selves to the workplace. And to allow them to do that, we need to create that ecosystem. I think when I joined the workforce some 20 years ago, no matter what's happening in your personal life, you had to bring in a stoic face to the workforce. You had to smile, you had to look focused, even if, the day before you had the most crazy and the most depressing day of your life, right? Gone are those days. We need to realize that if we have to truly capitalize on the potential of each and every one in the organization, we need to allow them to be their own selves at the workplace. And that journey has to begin with acceptance. And the person who has to be the most accepting is your manager. So hence, we have also focused on training our managers on becoming allies. So we have an allyship program in the company, which kind of helps sensitize and train managers on understanding the role that they play in allowing people to be their authentic selves, and how that can really impact the sense of inclusivity and the productivity of the colleagues in their teams. So that is another way in which we are focusing on ensuring that we truly enable our colleagues and build an ecosystem of acceptance in the organization. So a couple of examples. I can actually go on, but I will be sensitive to the time, Deodat.
So this is interesting because I'll give you one example. In an organization I was working with, as an experiment, once in a week we brought therapy dogs into the organization. Okay, and when we first did it, everybody was skeptical, what are these dogs going to do? But the reaction of the employees to those dogs in the organization, okay, initially it was a skepticism, but the kind of people, the way they let go, people used to be in tears hugging those dogs. Then we realized that it's not about somebody missing their pet back home. It's a much more fundamental thing of being able to open up, and the dog is very important because it's not judgmental. But I think the larger message is not about the therapy dog, is the organization has to also provide a equally safe environment. Okay, and that is becoming very important. Like in what you mentioned earlier, the thought was that when you come to work, leave your home at the gate of the organization. And when you go home, leave the work outside your home door. But now today, both these boundaries have got completely blurred. When you had work from home, where is the boundary? Where does home start and where does work start? Okay? So these are things which are becoming a reality, and organizations which are smart and wanting to move ahead, they just realize one reality in this, that when you get a person, you get a package deal. There is emotions, there is thoughts, there is weaknesses, there is strengths, there is aspirations, there's dreams and hopes. And you cannot dissect and cut a person into pieces and say, only bring this part into the work and, take the rest out. But before we go to the last round, there's one announcement I forgot to make in the beginning, but I'm making it now. This bunch of people here, I'm not going to summarize because it's been so interesting, I forgot to take notes. So you guys are going to summarize the first round. I'll just go around and tell you that first round, whatever we discussed, a few points, okay? Your responsibility is first round. This division over here, from this A, this side, okay? So this young lady sitting here in the first row. Can you put up your hand? No, next to you. Yeah, put up your hand. Yeah, from this lady onwards up to this aisle, this whole bunch, you are going to summarize group round 2, okay? You guys are going to summarize round 3, which we just discussed. And 4, which is going to come up now, is your responsibility. You are probably going to do better. Okay, so. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to announce this in the beginning.
Nice googly you have thrown there.
I also am a teacher. Okay, so I understand. Okay, now we are going in for a very interesting round. Okay, and the instructions to the panelists over here are very simple. This is what we call as the OTB round. OTB means out of the box round. So my request to you is, in this round, Forget your organization. You don't have to be constrained by that. Forget to some extent your thoughts and beliefs in terms of restrictions and constraints. But if you were to do this unlocking, unleashing in a highly creative way, okay, think of anything you like out of the box. There is no upper limit. The choice is yours entirely. Okay, so could we have a out of the box round? Your thoughts on what can we do? What can organizations do to unleash potential? Absolutely creative. Maybe start from here, then we'll move down.
Okay, so I'm going to take a plunge here. I think if resources were not a constraint, and as the entire all the rules that that basically mentioned, I think the time has come for organizations, or the time should come very soon for organizations to really look at a very, very customized approach towards employee engagement and retention. Because I think, when this entire workforce planning, workforce design piece happened, I think the whole approach has always been around consistency. Consistent policies, consistent practices, giving everybody the same experience. I think now has come the time where we no longer want the same experience, and employees don't want the same experience. And employees understand that their experience is unique to their own selves. And to keep that in mind, like for example, there is FlexBen, which has been introduced, right? I mean, there's flexible benefits where employees get a choice to choose what they want from a menu of benefits that the organization offers. That's only a very small subset of what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking that, given an entire universe of various elements, whether it be learning and development, whether it be career progression, whether it be, your work style and how you choose to work, whether it be in terms of your kind of performance conversations do you have, everything can be tiered to each individual employee with the best intention of aligning to what works best for them. There could be some people
Basically, not one size fits all.
not one size fits all. Yeah.
Great. So, Siddharth, over to you. Anything out of the
Yeah, I
box?
think I love insurance industry, right? I love this industry. That's my bread and butter. While IT is the bigger one, but I provide consulting mostly to the insurance organization, right? And one thing I realized that insurance were pioneers in trying to give some of the out-of-the-box things as a benefits to their employees, right? So one of the out-of-the-box thing is, can employees decide their own career path, right? And their own kind of work they want to do, not on the annual basis, but on the daily basis, right? And why I say insurance is because the entire insurance brokerage business brought that into the market, right? They decided how much brokerage business they want to work on. While Aon-like companies actually commercialize that into a bigger format, but I mean, take individual brokers in the market, right? They decide what they want to work on. They decide they want to be happy today and not work today, but tomorrow they want to work double shift, right? And the only missing element is, right, what Sonali was talking about is bringing the mental health and the education and everything that they were not getting the benefits of, right? And Priya was talking about the overall self being, how do you deal with those kind of conditions, right? If an organization can truly measure performance on a daily basis, right, and deal with them on a daily basis, that will be the true self and unlocking of the person. That when I am happy, right, I'll work 12 hours a day. When I'm not, I'll work 2 hours a day, right? And I'm not worried not getting paid for rest 6 hours a day, right? I think that's an entirely different kind of organization that you can think of, right? It's too much of change, but I think insurance has already done a good amount of work in the brokerage business at least, if not in rest of the part of the business.
I think that is really out of the box, but I think you're utilizing the inherent nature of the insurance industry, which permits that kind of.
It's not just insurance, right? It's an entire industry can move into
Right.
that directions, right? If you take, the large commercial business, right? Large commercial business is all about trying to accumulate data, and there are tons of people who are trying to do a data assimilation, right? And doing underwriting. Can I be an underwriter, do only one underwriting a day? right? Can I be a surveyor who can do only 5 surveys a day, right? And those are the things that you can do entirely differently, right? Or I can be the owner of my own destiny, right? I will create a small software, and that's how the entire business started, right? Where I can improve my own efficiency. Organizations are enablers of improving the efficiency, right? Enablers on human development rather than trying to define what I should work 8 hours a day.
Good, thanks you. Shailen, what about you?
I had written down something else, but I'm going to flip it, okay? The question is the googly. So, picking on what Priya said, that you need to bring your whole self, and picking on the smartphone analogy that Devdutt used, I'm going to say something else. So here the hero of the piece is the employee, correct? Which is potential employee sitting here in the room. So what happens to your smartphone? Do you get updates on your apps every day? Once a month, maybe once a week? What is it? Fixing? Bugs, right? Imagine that you're the app. You can never have the perfect version out, because I've not seen a perfect version on my app so far, on my phone so far. You need to keep fixing those bugs, okay? You need to think of yourself as that beta version of that app. Keep working on yourself and bring out the next one and the next one and the next one, and that's what's going to help you to bring out that potential. The manager is like that app developer. He or she is going to help you facilitate that. That smartphone is the organization. So that's the out-of-box idea I have. Please think of yourselves as the app, which is under beta version. There's no perfect self, but work on it. Don't let that go. And just let that beta version flourish. Okay, that's it.
I think app with a human touch.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy to carry away from here. So, Priya, to end with you, what is your out-of-the-box thought?
Out-of-the-box idea, and I've been known for radical thoughts. So my out-of-the-box idea would be, I see organizations too much constrained by matrices. Everywhere. I mean, every meeting, every discussion ends and begins and now actually takes up center stage of, so in fact, if anybody is interested, please read this book called Tyranny of Metrics. So if it were in my control, I would really do away with matrices. Bring the, like Shailen said, bring the employee in the forefront. Localize work, which means why should work be controlled from the head office, which is in Mumbai or Gurgaon or New York? Why should it not be in the place where the work happens, the control of that work? So localize work much more. But definitely, I think it's time to cut down on measures, metrics. I think we are far better than that. So that will actually unlock the entrepreneurial energy, which right now is stifled within employees. So in my opinion, that's the way to go.
I think that's a fair point, because this is another very interesting thing, that organizations will cry from the rooftops that, our employees need to be unleashed. But if one person, poor guy, decides to unleash himself or herself, there is immediate backlash from the same organization saying that do your job. Okay, who asked you to look into that other person? So I think it's not just about sloganeering and talking about unleashing the potential. You have to walk the talk. Okay, so now coming to the end of the discussions and leaving some time for question and answers. This group here, first round, what do you mean by unlocking? What did the panelists say? Can anybody summarize 1 or 2 points quickly? Anybody in this group? Any one thought? Yes.
Right. Hello. So I recall ma'am talking about how when you enter the workplace, how the pandemic has impacted us on a whole, and how sir talked about when you enter the workplace, the first 3 things you have to think about are the challenges which you might face in the future, how you will be out of a job, and what the main 3 threats are going to be for yourself. So, thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Anybody from this group? No? Yes, please.
So, the speech came across hybrid mode of working and its flexibility. We talked about that thing.
Okay, so by and large, the first topic, just to summarize for everybody, was about what do we mean by unlocking the potential of the workforce. So I think the summary in very short was that, look, many times the people don't know what they're capable of doing. And organizations need to have that flexibility and give that kind of an environment to people and to come out as full, total human beings. That means give their fullest as a human being. And the onus of this is obviously on the employee to some extent, and to a large percentage on the organization. And I think the other point which is very important over here is the individual, the team, and the organization. So how do you unleash at each level? It has got a different implication. So it's not like just one unleashing action. It has to be customized and built. Then moving to this group here. So the point for this second discussion was that HR and management science has been for years together, decades together, talking about how to make people work more efficiently, how to make things more better, blah, blah, blah. And all of HR science is about that. So what is it that has suddenly increased the focus of that now? Why are we talking about unleashing the potential now? So the panelists gave some very, very important points. Can have a summary from this group about the second round. Anybody from this group? Quickly. Yes, please.
My name is Sai Kumar, sir. I'm PGDM first year student.
Yeah.
Sir, I found Shailen sir mentioned that employees take care of customers and organizations take care of employees, which are also known as internal customers, which I found it is an insightful and sagacious description. Thank you, sir.
What else? Anybody else? Thank you. Anybody else? What else was mentioned over here? What was one event which was mentioned which has suddenly brought this whole business of unlocking potential to the attention of everybody? There's one specific thing which was mentioned. Pandemic. Okay, so the pandemic actually saw the whole world of work turning upside down. The whole world turned upside down and people started doing things in a manner which nobody had imagined before. If somebody had said that you would be working from home, I mean, people have said you are crazy. You don't give me even one day casually when I want. And now you're telling me to sit at home. So obviously it turned the whole, of course, there was a gamut of other things which was mentioned, and one important example which you should carry away is the fish and the squirrel. Don't forget that. Okay. So when you are a fish, don't act like a squirrel. When you're a squirrel, don't act like a fish. And when you're in the business of selecting people, don't select a fish for squirrel's job. Okay, this group here. We said that unique people practices in different organizations. What did you pick up from any one of the panelists? Anything you'd like to talk about? Yes, please. Yes.
Hello, sir. I'm Sneha Shaji. I'm also PGDM first year student. From what I picked up was that whenever we walk into an organization, the organization should enable us to unleash and show our whole self, the true self, instead of carrying a stoic face around. And even if we are upset or happy or underperforming, we should carry that forward. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, so one of the interesting things which was mentioned over here by Priya is that she very candidly shared that she discovered that people don't want to be unleashed. Contrary to popular belief where you think that everybody would want to be unleashed, people don't want to be unleashed. Then I think Shailen gave a very, very good example of the parachute. Because if you provide a parachute, if a safety, that means the environment is safe, then people will be more inclined to try new things. They'll be experiment with things. But if you just push them out on a limb and the risk is entirely theirs, then people will always choose to be on the safer side. And I think the examples which Siddharth gave also were very interesting from the IT industry, and how it affords different opportunities for training and upskilling. Okay, and each one has that potential to grow. And even Sonali mentioned one very important thing, that, the mental health. So something which is normally not discussed in hardcore performance discussions. You, think that is a human weakness and why should we talk about it? But no, people and organizations today are realizing that if you want the whole human being, the entire human being to be there for you, then you have to address all parts of the, human psyche. Last part, out of the box, I think you had adequate notice. Now you have no excuse. Yes, anybody, please.
Hello, sir. I'm Aditya Vashne from second year PGDM.
Yes.
So, sir, since it was out of the box round, so everyone gave some of the out of the box ideas. So, what Sonali ma'am said that instead of having a consistent approach towards the employees, we should have a customized approach towards the engagement and retention of the employees. And I would like to recall what Shalin sir said, that the main hero is the potential employee, and he should try to bring best out of himself.
Okay, good. Anybody else from this group?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
My name is Darshan Kadu, and I'm a first year PGDM student here. As the sir said, that employee should think himself as an app, and he should just eliminate the bugs. And then ma'am said that organization should look above the matrices. They are just born to the matrices. What sir said was that employee should look after their better self, and the organization should look onto the efficiency on the daily basis rather than the annual basis, so that it would lead to the boom in the organization. Thank you.
Okay, so actually this has served one more purpose. I'll address a question to everybody. Which group do you think was the most unleashed? Be fair. Be fair. Okay. And remember one thing, what unleashed them was just a suggestion from me. Okay, nothing more. It was mindfulness on your part. Okay? And just the fact that you didn't have that little nudge in the beginning, you guys could have done far better, right? But you did a good job anyway. So in a nutshell, the whole business of unleashing and releasing your potential, etc., that key lies with you. You are the lock and you are the key yourself. Okay, we had promised a question answer round. We have just a little time. So anybody who would like to ask a question, please also tell us to whom the question is directed, so they can give you the specific reply. Maybe we can go for around 5 questions.
Hello. My question is directed towards Ms. Priya. Ma'am, you spoke about the depersonalization of self in the workplace. Could you please elaborate that a little bit more, so as the students who will be integrating themselves into the workforce, they can have something to take away from it?
Yeah, that's a very bright question. What is your name? Ashwin. Ashwin, so it's a very bright question, and much above what I would possibly think a student would ask, because this is really a question which seniors do ask. But you are right, there is depersonalization that happens, and I think I touched upon that. So just look at it like this, that right now all of you have so many interests. You could be into dance, food, music, reading, maybe archaeology, I don't know. I mean, so I have heard students talk about so many interests. However, as we go up in the organization hierarchy and life, I think life also does that to us, so many of our interests die down. Of course, we blame it on no time and so many other demands and family and all of that. But the self is shrinking because of various things, and the constraints in some way is also organization, because organization puts boundaries and you learn to function within those boundaries. So somewhere depersonalization happens, and then commoditization, what Sandeep was talking about, that's also an element of depersonalization, because employee is not seen as unique. Employees are seen as groups, and the more and more organization thinks of employees as groups, depersonalization will always be there. But some of it can't be avoided. So one has to kind of balance out, and employee need to be mindful that I won't be commoditized. Like, I will always maintain my unique self in some way. So that is the answer to depersonalization also. Thank you for this bright question.
Anybody? Any one question from this group? Anybody else, please? Anybody? the auction, no? Last call, going once, going twice, then the third time I bang, then end of the session. Okay.
Okay,
So,
let me ask you something, right? I mean, I've been talking about reinventing yourself, right? I'll give you a sentence, right? And it will end with a blank, right? And you have to tell what that word should be, right? The sentence goes like, wish you a very happy. Happy? How did you come to a conclusion happy? Everyone came with a conclusion as happy. Fair enough? It's the most widely used, most predictable next word. Right, that's what is the power of prediction. Right, that's what the chat GPT is all made about. The power of prediction of probability, and if you continuously build probability with avoiding the distraction. What are the distractions in these words? Is a distraction. Useless word. Wish, you use an important word, very is an important word, and then, so you construct the entire sentence based on certain parameters, right, and come to a conclusion is what next. Right, that's what life is all about. Right, if you start constructing your next move again and again and again, right, every word, someone said very happy new, right, I mean, and that's contextual. Right, important is what is contextual. If it is Raksha Bandhan, then I will say, wish you a very happy Raksha Bandhan, right? If it is Onam, I will say, wish you a very happy Onam. Right, it's a contextual thing. If you keep on adding to the probability, right, you become an AI. Right, and that's what you need to do to make sure that your job and your potentials are taken to the next level. Right, and if you think about those lines, then you will predict your next move.
Thank you. And let us close the panel discussion. Once again, thanks to NIA for giving us this opportunity. Thank you for your attention and wish you the very best in your career. All success and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for such interesting and stimulating insights. Now, I would like to request my colleagues to present the mementos to the experts as a token of gratitude.
Thank you so much, everyone. With this, we have come towards the end of the summit. But before we end, I would request my colleague Yashika to kindly take over and announce the winners of the poster making competition.